Thank you, Mrs. Dwyer. Also, Mrs. Dwyer is up here. Her position at school is a CAP interventionist. She's done an amazing job. We've split the duties this year. She's been in school and I've been out of school working on Zoom. So we're an amazing team. And I think so. It's been an amazing, it's been a great experience. I've never shared my job with anybody. Thank you, Linda. So if you want to just go and a little bit about each of your schools, and Jody, why don't you go first? You're local.
I was going to say, you said alphabetical order. I was like, okay, I'll go first. So hi, it's nice to see everyone virtually in little squares as we've been doing for the last 14 months or so. My name is Jody Glassman, Director of University Admissions at FIU, your hometown university. You know, you're very lucky in Miami to have a public research university right in your backyard. And you probably hear that a lot as far as, you know, having what is a public research university. And so for those of you who like numbers, I'm going to share with you just a few little tidbits of numbers. So FIU, just like my the three other institutions here, is recognized as a top tier research university with the highest classification available. In addition, FIU has been ranked by US News and World Reports as a top 100 public research university, and it's in the top 50 for things like social mobility, affordability, and diversity. It's also been recognized by the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings. These are rankings based on the United Nations criteria for our work in underserved communities and support for our students in need of financial assistance or our commitment to the environment. So again, very lucky to have such an institution right in your backyard. But I'm going to skip over the rankings because I know we're here to talk about what's changed, what's not changed, moving forward. You know, I think the biggest thing that hasn't changed is our commitment to our community. And that's been something that we've done throughout the pandemic, from opening up a test site at the Tamiami Fairgrounds to hosting a drive-through admitted student day, a drive-through graduation, and a number of other events throughout the last 14 months. And I'll just leave it at that. So I'm going to toss it on over to Haga.
Hey everyone, and greetings from Tallahassee, our capital city here in Florida. It is a beautiful night up here today, beautiful temperatures. And as we are nearing May 1st, which is sort of the deadline for some to pay their admissions deposit, I think it's a great time to reflect on the things that we dealt with this last year. And Harry, you were so gracious and so kind to share such nice words about us. But it's been interesting. It's been a year, and we've had, like everybody else, had to pivot and do a lot of changing to make things work as nicely as they appear to be doing. But I, for one, I'm looking forward to next year, to be honest with you. And I know that for those of you that are here, hopefully we have a lot of juniors, maybe even some sophomores, and maybe some freshmen as well. And I feel everybody's sort of looking forward to what this new year is going to bring, and excitement about being able to sort of capture back your high school experience. Hopefully, being able to be in classes, slowly but surely being able to participate in different types of activities, and hopefully have an opportunity to visit with us. And that was one of those things that was a challenge this last year, was, the students that were applying as seniors not being able to visit us at colleges in person because we weren't offering tours. We did not have open admissions offices. And so we very quickly had to pivot over to have virtual presentations and virtual tours. And I think that's one of those things that's going to stay, to be honest with you. Yes, we are opening back up for tours, and yes, we are giving admissions presentations. But I think there's always going to be a part of us. They're going to want to go ahead and provide these virtual offerings, because the truth is we are now able to reach more people more broadly. And that's a good thing. And so for us this last year, as we started out in the fall, I was really nervous, really, really nervous. And I think most of my colleagues would probably agree that they were as well, because it's a pandemic. Like, we've never done this before. Are people going to want to go to college? Can they go to college? And so there's a lot of questions with that in mind. But we ended up, from being down initially in applications, to having another record year of applications received. And so, I really do have faith that going into this next year, that this is going to be a year that is going to be very similar, but we're going to be able to add more to it for you as students. And so I would encourage you to do two things at this point. If you're interested in Florida State, one, you need to go to our admissions website, so admissions.fsu.edu. And that's where you can learn about everything from how to apply for admissions, when our applications are opening up, what does our profile look like, what about applying for financial aid, etc. And the other part of it I would encourage you to do is to check out our virtual tour, because I think that will give you a little snippet of what our campus looks like, but then we would like to invite you to come and visit our campus. We will be opening our campus for the juniors, so rising seniors, we call you. That is going to be in May. And so starting in June, we will start opening the tours, but in May is when the registration will be opening shortly. So I hope you all will take a time to come up and see us. We'd love to see you. Thanks for having me. And now it's my colleague from Elizabeth from UCF. Do I know my alphabet right?
You do, absolutely. Hi, Haga. Thanks so much. Greetings from Orlando here at the University of Central Florida. We are, all four of us are excited to be here because we know that you have had quite a year. We know that there's been so much going on, making sure that you get through the process of just going to school, and now you're starting the college admissions process. And I think that's a scary enough process to begin with. And I think that there's a lot of myths and a lot of questions that come up, and anxiety. And we want to be able to hopefully take tonight to really give a little bit of behind the scenes and get some answers for you, because we know it's stressful. We are really excited to start off this new year for recruiting students to come to the class of 2022 at all of our institutions. We are going to be opening up soon for campus tours so that we can welcome you to campus, so that you can see the campus itself and you can really experience it. And we're excited that our classes are going to be much more, our campuses will be much more back to where they were pre-COVID. I think that's something that we're all looking forward to, having more students on campus and in-person classes. And that's what we're really looking forward to. I know at UCF and all the other institutions as well. We are unrolling admissions, so we will start looking at applications in September. So our applications will be opening up at the very end of August, and that gives you some time in the summer to perhaps come and see us. It also means that you can do some research online. Our virtual sessions, we have information sessions, panels with students, or for current students, to kind of give you a feel of what it's like to be on our campus. So we're trying to make it as accessible to everyone, whether you can come visit us or not. And as Hagus mentioned, I think that we've kind of changed college recruiting a little bit, whereas we will have a lot more things online as well, because everyone can't get to our campus, and that's fine. If you can, that's great. If you can't, that's okay. We're going to have options for students as well, to be able to go online and experience all of our campuses that way as well. I wish you all the best of luck. I hope this evening will be helpful. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this, Harry and Linda. And I wish everyone the best of luck. And now I turn it over to my friend, Charles Murphy from the University of Florida.
All right. Greetings from Gainesville. Hello, my name's Charles Murphy, and I'm the Director of Freshman International Admission at UF. So we just want to echo what's already been said, that really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and also just appreciate that you're taking some time out of your days to learn a little bit about the admissions process and hear from us. In my couple minutes, I'll just maybe touch on a couple things that maybe aren't on the top of your mind, but really maybe should be. And that's that, our 4 universities, represent 4 of the 12 state universities. And part of our mission is public service and is the public good. And I think, in a year that's been extremely challenging, I think we can look at things that have been done on all of our campuses that have tried to help and contribute to the public good. I can think about UF, for example, has done a lot of research and outreach about COVID, looking at ways in which we can, as a university, help the state, recover from, the economic issues that have hit the state because of COVID. But also, when I think about the disparities that we've seen with the impacts of COVID on low-income communities, communities of color, our university and the other universities have done a ton of work in this area to try to, bridge those gaps. The University of Florida has done a ton through UF Health to do a lot of vaccinations in our local community. I know the other colleges and universities have done the same, opened up their football stadiums, opened up their parking lots. And I know that folks in your local community have done that as well. And I just want to, again, take a little bit of time to highlight the special nature that public universities have, because yes, you go to college to get a degree and to learn and to hopefully, get a great job or get into a great graduate school and be personally successful. And that's part of the reason we exist. But the other part of the reason we exist is really to help civically and to help the state generally. And again, I think you see a lot of that that's been done on all of our campuses over the past year. So when you're applying to our universities and hopefully enrolling at our universities, again, you're personally helping yourself individually, but you're also part of a process of, improving the lives and improving the state of things in the state of Florida, around the country and around the world. And we're all looking to solve all of these different problems that come up, whether it's, again, with the COVID-19 pandemic, whether it's with climate change, whether it's with sustainable agriculture, whether it's business development. We're doing all of these things, and you can be part of that at any one of our universities. So I just want to take a few minutes to talk about that. Then also just do some plugging quick for UF before we get to the questions. Just like everybody else said, we have a ton of online options. So just admissions.ufl.edu, you can find all of our information about how to connect with UF. We have great online opportunities. We plan to open up campus tours for prospective students in roughly a month. So if you look back on our website and our visit section, you'll see those opportunities start to pop up. But just keep in mind that at our campus and at other campuses, we're going to have small tour sizes. We're not going to have completely packed rooms. So plan early and be prepared to maybe wait a little bit till there's capacity to accommodate everybody that wants to visit. Our application will open up in August, and we'll set all of our final application dates and everything like that over the next couple months. So if you want more information about UF, go to our website, explore there, come to a virtual information session, or also on our website, you can sign up for our mailing list and we'll give you all the updates that you need about applying. So again, thanks so much for having me, and I'll turn it back over to our hosts for the Q&A. Yeah, I believe you're still muted, Harry.
Someone told me to mute, and so I did it, so I should never do it. Charles, you're the one, except for FIU, obviously, the only one with a local office. Is your local office open?
Yeah, so our local office, it is and it isn't. So we do have people who work. We have a Coral Gables office, but right now that office is not sort of taking walk-in visitors. It is occupied by staff. Again, we hope to open that up in the near future, but we do have 2 staff members who cover Miami-Dade, Broward County, Ruben Riffin and Hassan Casanova, who work out of that office, who would probably be your main contacts. But right now you can't quite see them in person, but we hope you will be able to in the not too distant future.
So you guys all really gave so you answered some questions I had sitting here from people that have been asking all along. And I guess the question a lot of people want to know is how physical do you have any idea about, let's go back a second. Deadlines, are they staying the same next year? Are you all still planning? Like I know UCF and FIU are rolling, FIU and FSU have a deadline date for application. Are we keeping that all the same for next year? Are there any expectations of change?
So Harry, FIU moved a bunch of deadlines this year because of testing, and we're planning to move them back to the original deadlines. So we had a November 1st scholarship consideration deadline for applicants, and we had moved that to December, and then we moved it again to January. So we are going to move that back to November. So those will change. So I encourage everybody to use our website for the most up-to-date details on deadlines.
So for Florida
UCF,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
So for Florida State, we are going back to what it was originally. So this last year, we had moved it from November 1st to December 1st for those students that wanted priority consideration. And so we're back to a November 1st deadline with those students to have a complete application by November 1st. We'll receive an admissions decision electronically on February the 17th. And then our final application will be March 1st, and we'll be doing rolling admissions starting in March.
UCF, we're going to be on rolling admission. We continue. We'll start taking applications at the very end of August. We'll start making decisions at the very beginning of September. And we really recommend seniors apply between September and November of the senior year. And that's for maximum admission consideration as well as scholarships, because we'll start looking at scholarship consideration end of October, beginning of November, and typically by January, mid-January, our scholarship funding has been exhausted. So the earlier in the fall students can apply and get through that process, the more opportunities for them at that point.
For UF, I anticipate our deadline is still going to be November 1st to get your application in. We are sort of looking at our subsequent deadlines, which we adjusted this past year for SAR and test scores. So we haven't set those yet, but I think you can feel pretty comfortable that the main application deadline will still be November 1st.
Okay, thank you. That was all of you, right? You all got that, right? Okay, let's make sure. Can we talk a little bit about how you think, the changes that were made with dorms this last year, class selection, online classes, how do you see it coming next year? Maybe one of you could even answer. I don't know if the state is doing it in general for everybody, or is it going to be individual schools saying we're going more physical? One question one of the kids asked, will I ever have to go into an auditorium with 400 or 500 kids again? And so that's
yes. Yeah, I mean, I can start. I think the first caveat, of course, is these are the plans. And I think what we've all learned over the last year is that plans can change if the facts on the ground change. But I think generally speaking, the plans for all the SUS institutions is, to return to as normal operations as we possibly can by the fall semester. So at UF, that means typical course sizes, typical course capacity, typical number of in-person instruction. There might be some requirements. So I think a question that doesn't have a final answer is, will there be masks required in the classroom, for example, in fall? So that's an answer I don't quite have yet, but I think the intention is to have classes with sort of the typical capacity. And at least at UF, there's still going to be, and there always were pre-pandemic, some online courses. And so it doesn't mean that every student will be in a face-to-face class for every single class that they have. So there will be some online options, but the intent is to be as in-person as possible. And the only change that I have heard so far that has sort of been decided at UF that will sort of be different than pre-pandemic is with housing. My understanding right now is there's going to be 2 to a room, but they're not going to do any triples. So that was sort of one decision that they've made. But other than that, I think the intent is, assuming things continue to go well, vaccinations, low positivity rates, et cetera, is by fall be as close to normal operations as possible.
Is that pretty much the same for everybody? I see the head shaking, so I'm presuming that it's a question answered. And I guess somebody also asked about testing for the COVID. Is there going to be any kind of mandatory vaccines or mandatory testing or anything like that that you may have heard? I know this is not admission stuff, but there are questions that are coming up.
It's not up to us, but I think I think we mostly feel that we were probably not heading towards mandatory vaccinations as some universities out of states are doing, but ultimately that's not going to be a decision that's going to be left up to the university. But as of right now, we have not received any indications that it is going to be a requirement or that that's even a discussion point. And I think all of our universities have facilities where our students are able to go and get their shots, and we strongly encourage them to do that. And so I envision that messaging will continue on in the fall as well.
Anything different, or thumbs up on everybody on that? Pretty much the same. Good. Okay. The trends this year, I mean, I think we all had this feeling at the beginning of last year, oh my God, SAT testing. Florida is the only state in the country who is requiring testing. I think, I don't know, I know for parents, it must have been very frustrating, and for students taking the test was frustrating. How did it impact your decisions? How did it, when you were going through the process and a child only tested once, was that considered? And, we're still even having some issues with testing, at least in Miami-Dade County. Will it be continuing next year? Will the amount of times kids test have an impact?
I think that one of the great things, probably the only great thing about the pandemic, is that we all went through it together. No one had to explain to us that what happened with COVID, or that a student didn't have as many opportunities to test. And we're all human. Every one of us who's making admission decisions, we're human, and we understand. We understood the struggles of what was going on and the impact. And I think that a holistic review of an application is something that I think all of us do, and I'll let my colleagues chime in as well. But we definitely were looking at things that perhaps were a little bit more outside of the other things that we were looking at previously. So we were looking very strongly at the GPA, at the grade, at the courses that were taken, the rigor, but we also looked at things like extracurricular activities, which we looked at previously, but it wasn't solely based on a GPA and a test score. Yes, they were required, the test scores were required, but we definitely looked at a holistic review when making admission decisions. So I think that is something that was, for our admissions committee anyway, was important, because we knew that students perhaps couldn't test more than once, and that was okay, and we understood the struggles.
Anybody else?
I would just add, I agree with everything Elizabeth said. I would just add that I think sometimes, and it's not all students, but I think some students, even again, pre-pandemic, overestimate how much the test score is weighted in the review process. It is not, and I think anybody can jump in if I'm wrong, but I think for all of us, it is not the most important part of the application. If we're looking at academics, what you've done over the course of high school is going to be much more predictive and much more important to us in the review process. So again, it's part of the process. Test scores are used, but be careful, don't overestimate how much we use them or think we use them. But again, I also understand that, for example, for things like Bright Futures, test scores are extremely important in the process. So I think sometimes that can be conflated a little bit with our review process, which is much more holistic than a Bright Futures eligibility is.
If I could add, I think it's important to also recognize how we, as the 12 universities in the state university system of Florida, were sort of on our own little island this last year. We were the only state in the country that were requiring test scores, a state university system. And I think I even saw a question, in the chat, like, why did UF require a test score? Well, it wasn't UF's choice not to, it was something that we were having to do. It's an admissions regulation. And so I think, again, we were obviously very concerned about the impact on that on our admissions applications, what that would do, not just for our own citizens in the state of Florida, but for out-of-state students as well. But I think we showed a great deal of flexibility in working with students, pushed our deadlines around, offered more opportunity for students to be able to provide test scores. And to the point of what both Elizabeth and Charles have said, it's test scores was just one of many factors. It is not just a GPA and test scores. And I think that very much came to light in the review process this year.
Can I jump in here? Because I heard the word holistic, and I've been in this as a mom a couple of years, and I used to hate that word because I want to say, fine, okay, sure, it's holistic. What do I need to do? How many president, does my kid needs to be the president of this and get this? Like, just give me the info. Tell me exactly what my kid needs to do. A couple of years into it, I get it now, but maybe some of the parents here, can you just address holistic? I know you've talked about it a million times, but what are you looking for? What do they need to do?
So I'll start, and then I'm sure Haga and Charles and Elizabeth can add in. Part of a holistic review is really doing a deep dive into not necessarily who you are, but what you've done. So we're looking at the course sequences. How many math classes did you take, and which ones, and what's the sequence of them? And same with, science. So all your academic core courses, what kind of electives did you take? Here in South Florida, we have a lot of charter schools. We have a lot of academies. How do those academies align with your goals and your ambitions? And I understand at 15, 16 years old, you don't ultimately know what you're going to do with the rest of your life. I'm well above that age, and, still sometimes question where to go. But, we're really looking at you, as Charles said, beyond a GPA and beyond a standardized test score. We're looking at, not if you've participated in the most organizations, but how did those organizations enrich your experience? And how committed were you to those organizations? And did you develop leadership skills? One of the things people and young people need to understand about college is you can go get a degree. There's 4,000 colleges and universities to earn a degree. But it's what you do when you get there that is absolutely the most important thing. Did you participate in research? Did you participate in extracurricular activities or community service? And how did that enrich your experience? And how did that enrich you as a person? How did that make you more well-rounded? Harry loves this, but I'm a silver night judge. And so this year I judged English. But in the past, I've been judging science. And it's the same thing. When you look at, yes, there's one major project, but we're really looking at the entire picture of what a student has done for 4 years and how that has made you that person who you are at that point in time, your journey getting you to where you are, which is your college application. Colleagues?
And we are building communities. Our freshman classes, regardless of size, is building a community on our campus. And the application is a way for us to get to know you a little bit more. Obviously, the academic side is going to be the most important thing we're looking at, because we want to make sure you're successful once you get to us, because quite frankly, you know, the admission isn't the end game. It's the graduating in 4 years is the end game. And we want to make sure that you're successful and can do that. So we look highly at your academics, but we're also building a community. We want to see folks who are interested in theater and music and leadership and student government and all of those things, because if everyone was just interested in one thing on our campuses, they would be pretty boring places and you wouldn't learn a lot. And you do learn a lot outside of the classroom in college. And that's part of co-curricular work, as well as what you're studying in the classroom. So that's why it's important when we ask on the application about activities that you're involved in or work that you've done or anything like that. That's going to help us make those decisions because we get to know you a little bit more. Just looking at a GPA and a test score, it's pretty easy to make decisions. The holistic review brings in all of those other great pieces about you and the great things you'll bring to our campus and make us a better place.
I think I'm going to throw in one more word that is sort of like a buzzword that everybody hears about, and that's fit, right? It's what's a good fit. And, you know, as Elizabeth said, you know, we're really all about building a community of students that we feel are going to be successful students on our campus. And really, truly, when we are looking at the applications, what we're trying to decipher is based on the information, all of the information that you provided us with, is trying to get a sense of if we think that you would be a good fit for our particular campus. And again, it kind of goes to the point of what Jody was saying earlier, is that you want to go to college, there are thousands of colleges available where you can earn your degree, but not all of those colleges are a good fit for you. And so that's one of those things that you really want to spend some time on is as you're developing your list over the colleges that you're going to be applying to, is recognizing what's a good fit. Is it a large urban campus? Is it a small private college? Is it in-state? Is it out-of-state? Do they have the major that you offer? There are so many different things that come into play. And so I think the best thing that you can do is, as you're making your college list, get a better sense of what is the experience that you are looking for, as opposed to being tied up in what the rankings are and where your friends are going and where, you know, the parents' friends are highly recommend you go. You know, really take the time to really explore what is out there, because ultimately that experience that you have at a college or university is going to be up to you. You will be the one that is going to need to make the most out of that experience.
Awesome answers. Really are. And so I guess that's Linda, thank you for that. That was a great question. And I guess it leads up to the other thing is the kids are all asking, what can they do to enhance their application? What do you think about the magic word? The new buzzword this year has been dual enrollment. And the next question, I guess I'll put this all together, common errors that drive you crazy in an application. That, you know, if you, what's that common thing that just tips you, I guess, as you do it holistically?
I can start, I guess. So for the first part of the question, you know, what can you do to enhance your chances for admission? I think, and I'm going to tell you something that's counterintuitive, and it is genuine, although I think sometimes when it's coming from an admission director, you're like, really, is that what you really mean this? But as you're thinking about your high school experience, don't just see it as a means to get into college, right? You know, see it as your preparation for your next step, whatever that is, and you know, do the things, you know, curricularly within the classroom that you're passionate about and interested in. And I think you'll flourish and you'll end up at the right place, wherever that particular college or university or other option is. So, you know, if you love math and science, then that should tell you curricularly what you should be taking. And, whether that's dual enrollment or AP or whatever, that's the direction that you're interested in. And that's what you should do. And outside of the classroom, maybe, your part-time job, or maybe even in the summer, your full-time job is what's really important to you. And that's where you should spend your time, energy, and effort, and not, hey, I heard it's really good to be in the band, so I'm going to be in the band, even though I actually don't like band at all. Don't do those things. I would say, sort of going to the last part of the question, as best we can, as you heard earlier in our review process, we try to get a little bit of a glimpse of you and what you're interested in, what you're passionate about in the application. So try to make that clear to us through how you talk about your activities, through your essay. I would say the mistake that I see the most is from a broad perspective, is just sort of a missed opportunity in the application. You have an essay, you have an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about what you're interested in, what you've learned, or whatever the particular essay topic or prompt is. And sometimes that opportunity is missed because we read through the essay and we might learn a lot about, for example, a family member, but we didn't learn a lot about you. Or, we can see that you put the tiniest explanation of your activity, or maybe the acronym of the activity, that we don't know what that acronym stands for. And so there was a missed opportunity there to say, oh, this acronym is, this, Science Olympiad team that I'm on, and we were able to do X, Y, Z. So I think that's the biggest mistake that I sometimes see in applications, are just sort of missed opportunities to give us a little bit more information about you through the essay or through the activities that you're doing.
I would say probably one of the biggest challenges that we hear time and time again is this comparing you to other students. Parents do it, students do it, etc. And that's not how we read applications, actually. We don't sit there and compare one to the other. When we're in your application, we're reading about you. And so rather than worrying about what everybody else is doing, focus on really presenting yourself, and think about, this really small window of opportunity that you have. What is it that you want us to remember about your application? And that goes back to just what Charles was saying, is that missed opportunity. And we have all read a lot of essays about sports injuries and, different types of situations with divorces and death in the family, etc. And, if you take those events and share how that has impacted you, that's one thing. But if it's just telling us that happened, then that really doesn't share much about you as a person. So really take the opportunity to spend this time and recognize that we only have a few minutes initially as we're looking at your application. If anyone has read a resume, you look at your resume and you're not just digging through it. It's really is what's capturing your interest right away. And so you want to be sure that you think about that, think about how you're submitting your application through that lens and how you're presenting it, as opposed to what is everybody else doing and I need to do the same thing.
As the local school, I want to add, distance, this is the mistake that we see a lot. Distance does not negate selectivity. So just because we're down the street and they're really far, no, they're all the way up in, Tallahassee and Gainesville, it doesn't change the fact that the applications should still have the same amount of attention to detail. I can't tell you how many times this year I heard from students that said, well, I worked on my UF and FSU applications first. And so I didn't answer this part of the application for FIU, or I didn't do this. And I'm like, I got deadline, I don't know what to tell you. We didn't have this information when we made the decision. So college applications all need to be paid, and the same goes for Miami-Dade. The same goes for that school in Coral Gables. You know, distance should not have anything to do with how you fill out your application. Everyone should put in the time and the detail to their applications. And then I'm going to address Harry's elephant in the room, which is the dual enrollment question.
Oh, thank you.
So dual enrollment. Dual enrollment is there for students to accelerate their education. There's also advanced placement, there's international baccalaureate, there's the Cambridge program. There are requirements to be in it. We've had this conversation, you know, when Charles said there's 12 of us, we actually meet on a regular basis as well. So we talk a lot about policy and practice and things like that. With dual enrollment, we want to make sure that you understand, if I may quote Haga Ferguson, these are college level classes. So if you don't get an A or a B in a dual enrollment class, that grade still follows you. You cannot negate your college career. You may think, well, I just won't put it on my application and they won't know. Trust me, we know. There's something called the National Student Clearinghouse. So we find out. So we want to make sure you're absolutely ready. The other thing is we want you to think about, again, you don't have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life, but you do have to have an idea if you want to go in a specific direction. 30% of the FIU freshman class come in as biology majors. Only a third of them graduate with a biology degree. And that's because of calculus. So if you're taking dual enrollment and you know that you want to major in a STEM field, and you need to talk to someone about the right math to get you in the right direction for that STEM major. If you've done AP calculus, there's a next level of math that you should be considering. And it may not be appropriate for you to go do dual enrollment algebra, you know, college algebra, because that may not fit with your next step. So we encourage you to have a conversation with the dual enrollment coordinators. You know, there are advisors linked to dual enrollment, your school counselors, so that you are not just taking dual enrollment to take dual enrollment so that it looks good on a college application. We want you to get the most out of the dual enrollment. So ask questions and make sure you're on the right path, in the right sequence, and the right order. Charles, did I miss anything? Haga, Elizabeth?
You're good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's such a hot topic right now and kids are tripping over themselves. So thank you for that clarity.
And I will say, well, we talked a little bit about this before, and I will say this out loud, as I said to all the junior kids that we visited this week. Last year, dual enrollment was the only game in town. There was nothing else to do but take dual enrollment or Florida virtual school. That looks like it may not be the story this year. And there's so much more you can do to enhance your application besides take a dual enrollment class to make your GPA go up a tiny little bit. And dual enrollment is not for everybody. And if you're, especially if you're not a perfect, if you're not a great student that loves to learn and you just need a break sometimes. Summertime sometimes is for a break, to do some community service, to get out and do things. And dual enrollment is not for everybody all the time. School wasn't meant to be 12 months a year. I really do believe that. Wow, okay. Thank you for the white elephant. Any other comments about that from the northern end of town, other kind of state?
I mean, I would just echo again what Jody said, especially about, about the grades being with you right? And, you know, I think it's okay to, in high school, to, you know, responsibly, but take some risks, maybe try that honors or try that AP course. But there is a difference if you try that dual enrollment course and it doesn't go well, you can dig yourself a hole. So I would just be very careful about that. Whereas if you take a little bit of a risk in a high school class and it doesn't go well, once you progress on, that course, that grade stays with you in high school. But if you don't do well in that course, and then we'll use Jody's example, if you take that dual enrollment math course and you fail it, and you want to go to med school, you know, that can have some pretty big consequences. So that's one thing, again, I would just reiterate from what Jody already said.
Right, and going backwards in the math sequence would be another one of those things too.
Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit about this, that, you know, and Jody gave a great example. If you're already a student who performed extremely well in AP calculus, you know, taking a dual enrollment college algebra course after taking AP calculus doesn't make a lot of sense, I think, just for your math progression, but it also doesn't make a lot of sense to somebody who's reviewing your application.
Right.
And really, ultimately, what it comes down to is dual enrollment appropriate for the student? And when you're taking the course, you know, the professor teaching it are not going to give breaks to you because you're a high school student. They're not supposed to do that. This is what you signed up for, indicating that you were ready to handle the rigors of a dual enrollment course. And in many ways, by doing that, it's that expectation that you're going to get good grades. And so, you know, I think I saw one of the questions, and this is one we get all the time, you know, should students take an honors class and get an A, or should they take an AP class and get a B? And the answer is going to be the same for all of us. We want you to take your AP class and get an A. Same thing for the dual enrollment course, same thing for an honors course. We want you to do your best for any type of level course that you're taking. I think what makes dual enrollment so different is that it starts your college transcript, your record, your academic record. It will be with you for life. So just think about that. This is not really the time to explore it. And I think it probably hits home for me a little bit more this year, just because I have a rising senior and course registrations were due this week. And we had that conversation in my home about, should she be taking college algebra or should she be taking AP stats? And we settled on AP stats because that is a much more forgiving for where she is at than for her to venture into the dual enrollment. And so, you know, it's whatever is the right fit for the student and the family.
And I just want to add one quick thing, is that I think a lot of people think that if I take a dual enrollment class, it'll help my GPA. You have to remember that mathematically a C won't necessarily help your GPA. And you don't, not only to not have it follow you throughout, but it's not going to help that much. So don't just do it for those little pieces of bumping up the GPA, because that's not going to help you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's such a funny thing about the whole process with this. And I guess it goes back, I think I've said this every time I've done a parent presentation or a classroom presentation. So they may be tired of hearing it from me, but you take the most rigorous courses you can possibly take that you can do well, and it is okay to get a B in some classes, okay, and still be a teenager and still enjoy life. And now as we move through this pandemic, you know, hopefully these kids are going to be able to enjoy life a little bit more too. And I think that's so important for as parents that are watching this right now, you know, that rigorous but still have a life. Switching a little extra topic about that, because it's very funny. I've got two of my ex-administrators in here. One is a Seminole and one is a Gator. And they both asked this question directly just to me. Can you please have them talk about legacy? And it's a changing thing throughout the country, I believe. And the other question, I guess, for all of you is the next one is, how many readers actually look at their application, and how long do you actually spend on an application?
I can start. So for the legacy question, we stopped considering legacy in 2020. So in 2019, fall is when we made that decision. So it was never a huge consideration in our process, but it was something that did exist but no longer exists. As far as sort of the mechanics of the review process, how many people review it, how long do they spend? The way that our process has been set up in the past is that we read sort of the, for lack of a better term, the non-academic parts of the essay or of the application, which include the essay, activities, that type of thing. And so that gets read twice and reviewed twice. And then once that's read, it's sort of paired with the academic components of the application and reviewed through several layers of our review process. We have an initial review, we have a review with the committee, and then we have some final reviews. So I would say, with some students and their applications, the decision, doesn't need a lot of debate and scrutiny. And so that person may only be read by about 3 people. There are some people that will get read and looked at multiple times by multiple people, depending on their particular circumstances. So it's hard to say exactly how much time is spent, but it's every time it's looked at, it's not the same amount of time, right? Because it's been looked at previously. People, if you're being reviewed later in the process, if we're reviewing towards the end, I can see that it's already been looked at several times and could sort of see what the previous folks thought of the application. So I'm not going to spend as long on the 4th set of eyes as the first set of eyes is going to look at it. But probably when you're reading through that holistic portion, 5-7 minutes or so would be my guess of how long is spent there. And then when you put the application together, again, it varies a lot, because there's some applications where the decision is very clear, and there's some applications where the decision is very unclear, and you spend more time on those where it's unclear.
So for legacy for Florida State, we haven't used legacy in the college admissions process for many years, to be honest with you. It's kind of one of those hot topics in college admissions, because you're reading an application for a student, and so you want to make your admissions decisions based on what they are presenting to you. And so what I do say, though, is to our graduates, if they are in a situation where we're not able to offer admission to a student who have legacy ties to our university, we will go out of our way to work with the student to come up with a pathway for coming to Florida State. So if they have their heart set on coming to the university and graduate with an FSU degree, we can make that happen. I just may not be able to make that happen for the summer or fall semester as a first-year student. So I think it's important to kind of keep that in mind. And we like for our graduates to, certainly be in contact with the alumni affairs, et cetera. But, it does not have an impact on the initial read of the application. For the actual review of the application, it's a complex process. And the truth is that there is not a set time. There are some where I can read the application, it doesn't take very long to make a decision. And then there are some that I spend a lot longer time on because there are just different things that piques my interest. But I think the best thing to kind of keep in mind is, as you see a group of applications, I kind of break it down to where, the top 25% of the students are students that are just awesome students based on, their grades, their test scores, their essays. They're just rock stars, and they're going to be rock stars whatever university or college that they go to. Then I have my bottom 25%, where their performance in the classroom, along with test scores, their involvement and such, that, they do not compare to the other students that are presenting much stronger profile. So I'm not going to spend as much time with them. And so where we spend the majority of our time is sort of in that middle 50th. And that's where we're able to pull a lot out from just data. So a lot of it is data driven, but then we also pull out all those important indicators that we are getting from the essay, from their activities. Do they have a job? Anything that's really sort of the softer skills, if you will, to give more of a sense of who the person is. And again, that can go through a number of different people, or it may not. It just really depend on the applicant. So, and I think what you're going to find, even if you're asking all our colleagues, we're all going to do it a little bit differently. There's not a set process for how different colleges and universities review an application. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway. And again, I think the most important thing for applicants and their family members to know is just remember that every question on the application is there for a reason. It may not seem obvious to you right there and then, but we have gone through all of our applications and there is a reason why it's there. So take the time to answer the question and provide us with all the documents that we asked you to submit to us, because that's really a thorough application. And we promise you that we will put the time and effort into reviewing that very thoroughly.
Anyone else?
I'll just add quickly, we're on rolling admission at UCF, so it's a little bit different than notification dates. So our process can be a little more lengthy because we don't have a specific date where you'll be notified of admission. So a lot of times when students apply in the fall, one of the things that happens is perhaps we defer for mid-year grades. And that's something that we then let students know that we would like to see those mid-year grades, because sometimes that can be important in our process to see how a student is doing. So don't take that as a negative. I think sometimes folks really get frustrated by that and they think they want to see my mid-year grades and now what? And it's not a deny, it's simply a defer. And if a school is asking you to provide additional information and you really want to attend that institution, do that. Send that to them. They're not asking just to be kind. They're really looking for that information, and they're looking that can help make a decision. I mean, every year we look at students in late January and early February who have submitted those mid-year grades to us. And some students won't do that. Some students choose not to, but the ones that do, we're able to look at those grades and we're able to see how they've done in the first semester of their senior year and see how that's impacted their GPA and how they're doing in those courses. And that can really make a nice impression on the admissions committee when we're looking at that, because that is kind of the final piece of academic work that you're able to provide us. And as a rolling in admission institution, that plays a part in our review process.
I have a question about that. For FIU and for UCF, so many kids are just dying to go to your university and it's rolling, but they're hesitant to apply right when you open. They feel like they should wait for something, or maybe they're not ready yet. Is there an advantage to applying in August or September versus waiting till, I don't know what, in whatever they think magically is going to change in November or December?
I think it's always helpful to not be the last person that's submitting your application somewhere. I mean, I think there's deadlines out there. Don't be the last one throwing your hat into the ring. Obviously, we have more seats available in the fall when we're doing that. Is it easier to get in if you apply in the fall? Not necessarily. But students that may be very, very strong right now, because we're still accepting applications now, because our technical deadline for fall at UCF is May 1st. So we still do that, but we have very strong students applying now and making other choices, and we don't have space available. So to keep your options open, I would encourage a student that's looking at a rolling admission institution to be on the earlier end versus the later end. It can only be helpful to them as they're going through the process.
And I tell kids all the time about UCF and FIU in particular, get the application in early and you always have a chance to update your test scores. They're not going to reject you right away. They're going to defer you. They're going to wait and see what improvement you made, and you're showing demonstrated interest. So that's just
Absolutely.
a advice I give.
And when a student applies to our institutions, we want to be able to offer admission. We're not looking to find reasons to deny a student. So, if we can make that time available for them to submit additional things, that we want to do that.
So it's funny. My wife just came in and told me, boy, you're at an hour now already. And I looked up and I couldn't believe it. So I don't want to take up a huge amount of time of your time, but I would like for you guys, if you would each just tell me something like, I know a lot of colleges in the country go, why this school or why that school, but about maybe a program at your school that you are super proud of, something that makes you even shine more than you already do. Maybe a program some of these people don't know about, just something because I know them and Linda knows them, but the parents don't always know those things. So as we start to wind down, I don't know if you each want to just toot your horn, brag about something. I love all of you. You're my favorite schools in the country.
I'm going to point to my background here. It's hard to be FIU because I know like a lot of stuff is, in the news or on the paper and, or in the paper, the Herald. But, we have the only underwater research lab in the country. And so when Kerry Sanders likes to shark dive from the Today Show, he goes shark diving with Dean Mike Heithouse from FIU. And just recently, if you've seen this is my little fun fact, because I'm a huge fan of Cher. And if you saw the video that she just did about the elephant, part of that, she also did a video for FIU on Earth Day. So we have a really strong sustainability and environmental science program, in addition to, of course, our Extreme Weather Institute. And that is one of my favorite little fun facts about FIU. And of course, we have probably out of all the institutions, the best coffee. Not get a good cafecito. I don't care what anybody else says at any one of these other institutions. I have tried.
Not Pollo Tropical.
I think not Pollo Trop. No. Pincho is opening on campus. Just trying to sway them with our food.
So I think then that kind of leaves the opportunity for me because I'm the furthest away from Miami. And so we always kind of think about, as a community, how different it is really from South Florida. And I think, everyone that's visited campus would agree with that. Culturally, it's very different. We got hills here and lots of oak trees, not as many palm trees. We drink sweet tea, like real sweet tea, and barbecue, and we say you all. And so it's really in many ways a little bit like Georgia. And so, having the opportunity to go to a university located in the state capital, if you're really looking for that college, that traditional college feel, college town, which is very much what we are, then you should definitely check out Florida State. I always kind of hesitate to highlight a specific program because I think students nowadays think that if we don't mention exactly what they were thinking, then maybe that's not good. And that's just not the case, right? I also think it's important for students to know that it's perfectly fine to apply and be exploratory or undecided as a major on your application. In fact, a third of our students will come in as exploratory and undecided. And, you know, we have separate advising for those students. And so from the day that they set foot on campus, they have separate advisors that they work with and getting their schedule every semester. So by the time that they're reaching junior status, they can declare their major with confidence or earlier. And so, you know, I think that just, you know, the whole idea of going to college, doing something different, I definitely would encourage you to come and visit Florida State. And, you know, one of my favorite restaurants up here in Tallahassee was a Cuban restaurant, and it went under during COVID, but I'm ready for another one to come back. So bring it on here to Tallahassee. Go Noles.
I agree with Haig. I think it's tough to highlight just one program because we all have so many that are really great and world renowned, and we have such a great system here in Florida. The state university system just offers so many opportunities. I know UCF is, you know, we were founded as an engineering sort of school. We were by the Space Coast. So back in the 60s when the space race was on, that's why UCF was founded. And that's where our location is. And we're a metropolitan university, very different from Florida and Florida State. We're in a city, we're in a suburban area, but we're still in a city, and we're a metropolitan institution. So there's a lot of opportunities for internships, regardless of what major you're in. I think that's something that students should think about as well. So it's not so much the program that I want to highlight, but really the opportunities that students can find other things that they can do to build that resume when they graduate, and be able to really get some hands-on work, because I think that's important. I think 20, 30, 40 years ago, you graduated from college with a degree, and that's what you had, and that was great, and you went out and got a job. And now we all are encouraging our students to get that work in their field, to really get some hands-on work and build that resume, so that when they get that full-time job, they have some skills to be able to present to those employers out there. So I think that's one of the things that I like to highlight about UCF, is just the ability to really work with our career services area, to work with our internship areas within each of our 13 colleges, to really be able to get some work right from the very beginning, get some either hands-on work or research, if you're in an area that perhaps research is more important to be looking at, and to really do that right away. Don't wait until you're a senior in college to start thinking about those opportunities. Really start thinking about some of the things that you can get involved in right away, because your 4 years on our campuses are going to go so quickly. They're going to go even faster than your high school years did. I think, as they say, as you get older, time goes quicker. And I definitely believe that. And I think college will definitely fly by for you. So kind of put a plan in mind. And that's one of the things that I think is beneficial as you go into any of our campuses.
Yeah, just to highlight, I think a couple or a few different things about UF. I think one of the first things is just, you know, how comprehensive we are. We're the state land grant institution, which means, you know, we're founded in the 1800s, and sort of with the agriculture and mechanical background, and yeah, FAMU, which is the historically Black college and university that has that similar background as well. But you know, we're one of the very few campuses in the country where you can find, you know, the plethora of majors that we have: a law school, a vet school, a med school, you know, pharmacy, dentistry. You know, there's you know, a small handful of schools that have the breadth of programs that we have on one campus. Also, you know, IFAS, I'm not sure where the IFAS offices are in Miami-Dade, Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. But you know, we have a state reach. We have IFAS offices and extension offices and UF staff who work in all of the 67 counties in the state of Florida. And we have that outreach across the state to do research. And again, I talked sort of at the opening about the public good, but to sort of, work on all the issues and really help develop the communities that they're part of. And again, certainly in Florida, a lot of it is, coastal waterways or springs. If you're in the Gainesville area, lots of springs. If you're a kayaker and like to go in the natural springs, always 72 degrees in the springs. But I think the other thing academically that I'll point out that is UF specific and it has been a huge push in the last 8 to 12 months is artificial intelligence. I think that we know at Florida, and certainly we're not the only ones, but we know at Florida that data fluency, technology, artificial intelligence, doesn't matter what you do, that's part of your life, right? All of us are on a Zoom call right now, using a laptop or a PC or a cell phone, something that wasn't technologically possible 20 years ago, right? So we know that we have to work in this fastly evolving and technical place. And the UF is at the forefront of that. We have the fastest supercomputer in higher education. We are the hub for the state university system for big data research. So there's research going on our campus that's being done not only by UF faculty, but faculty from the 11 other SUS institutions, and undergraduate students can be part of that. We have an undergraduate certificate in AI fundamentals, artificial intelligence fundamentals, that any student can do. So it's not computer science majors. You can be a dance major and do the AI certificate. You can be a journalism major. You can be a biology major. You can be a whatever major, because we know data fluency and technology is the future and the present, and that's something that is really important to UF and that you can get as an undergraduate student here.
You know what's totally amazing? When I asked that question, I would not have guessed any of those answers that you would have all said. I have my own impressions of each of you, and you know how much I love all of your schools, and I think we are so lucky having the state university system to have 13, is it 13, am I right? 13, 12, 11, 12, sorry. I still count some schools, the USF St. Petersburg and USF regular, I still think of two schools. But we are like so lucky to have this, and you're talking about 12 schools of high quality, and you four are the flagships for those schools. I mean, you guys, as a college counselor for the last 12 years and being a counselor for 39 years, the transparency, yes, even Florida has transparency. But just the openness that you all have, and I know we didn't answer everybody's question today, but you guys are so accessible. Your people are so accessible. Now with the virtual side of it, I mean, our kids at Palmetto and Dade County Public Schools have SCORE, which links it right to your websites, which link it to tours. You guys are making it so easy to do it. And we watched that happen last year where kids had to make a decision by not even ever seeing the school and accepting that. And because of your availability to talk to the kids, you made that process so easy for them. And I'm just in awe of you, all your programs. And it's so funny that if you would ask me the 4 questions about your schools, they're not any of the things that I would have said. And I just, I'm amazed by all of your programs. I would have probably said, for all of you, I probably would have said your program for kids who are at risk or first gen would have been like one of my things that I would have said for all of you. You do things for the kids that are in need, and you do for kids who don't need, you treat kids like they're individuals. So I'm just like, I've been privileged to be able to work with the 4 of you and the other mission directors throughout the state. I think that once again, we are super lucky. And I want to thank you for coming. People are asking me privately, please don't let it stop. Please don't let it stop. But
Most of the questions are on your amazing websites too. I know a lot, I'm learning a lot, but every time a kid has a question I can't answer, I'm like, let's check the website out. And 9 times out of 10, the answer's there.
Yeah. And if not, they're there. I mean, that's the best part.
Totally.
All 4 of you are there for everybody, and your departments are amazing, and your people, even with the turnover of the missions people throughout the country, you guys rock. And I just want to thank you for coming back this year. I know that your people, God, Jody, talk.
Well, before you let us go, we also want to give you a shout out, Harry, Mr. Nuremberg, because you and the CAP advisors, coming from Miami-Dade County, have really helped navigate for all of these young people through some incredibly turbulent times. And it has just been amazing. And as someone who's had a front row seat to what's been going on here in Miami-Dade County and being down here and close by, you guys have been absolutely amazing. You're amazing, and what a gift you are to the school counseling profession. And so I think I speak on behalf of all of my colleagues most of the time, of all of my colleagues, how much we love you and appreciate you and value that you would do this, and especially for our community down here in Miami-Dade County. So thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
especially this is his last one. Woo.
So
We may have to just bring him back just so that he can moderate sessions like
I
that.
agree. I
Hey.
agree.
in a
I
second,
vote yes.
Yes, exactly.
He'll be moderating the SUS ones. Don't worry, we'll hit him up.
I'll do this till I have no brain left.
Deal.
Sounds
Deal.
good.
But thank you once again. Thank you for the people who came. We will have this. I'll leave it on the Facebook page, and I will put it on YouTube for anyone who wants to watch it. It'll be on YouTube under my name and Facebook under my name. And I just want to thank everybody for coming. If we didn't answer all your questions, once again, you could reach out to every one of these schools has an admissions rep for our Dade County Public Schools who are very knowledgeable. And, you don't have to go to the top to get answers, but it is nice to be able to, for you guys to come down and share your wisdom and your experience with us all. So I will let you get back to your families. I know you have a long commute. The favorite thing of the year for a lot of us has been the long commute. But so in fact, 3 people just entered, just so you should know. There's 3 people entering the room right now.
Still trying.
So they can watch the recording. Again, I'll talk to you again, but thank you again. People, Palmetto families, any other families that are here. I know Lou's in here with some of her Coral Reef people, and I know there's other people. I'm glad you came and enjoyed this experience, and we love you all. So thank you, people, for coming in, and you guys have a great evening and a great end of the school year. There's 5 weeks, and I think it's 5 weeks and 4 days left in the school year for us. Not that I'm counting.
This was awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean,
Thank
that
you,
was
folks, for coming.
amazing. It was so helpful.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, guys.
My favorite part about Zoom is watching everybody leave.
Bloop, 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 bloop.
No, I do. I just sort of like watching it,
Mr. Nierenberg, thank you for Mr. Bales.
Thank you, Clint.
Can we?
That was our UF legacy man.
Thank you guys so much. Great information. Great presentation.
So. Isn't it fun watching them leave? I don't like it. And then if you do this in a classroom, by the way, there's always somebody who fell asleep that you have to kick out physically because they're not answering the microphone and they left the camera, and
Right.
you have to make them leave. So it's very, very funny.
I know you say this stuff all the time, but it's just so helpful. It's so helpful. Parents are just dying for information, and that was incredible. Thank you.
The personal touch really does help.
It does. It's awesome.
I think we all enjoy doing it, so I think that's part of the good thing.
And
So
it
thank
shows-
you for inviting us.
No, you guys are doing us the
Wanna
favor.
come every day?
I think I would.
Do we have a rep down here now? For UCF?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
We're not going to have someone permanently. That position has moved, but you can always contact our office and we'll.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
I miss her.
Yes. Yep. She's at another institution.
No, I know where she is.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm gonna start.
All right.
I'm gonna start moving some people out. It's
Are you
easy.
gonna stop recording and?
Yeah, thank you. I can edit it.